Boom. Covers halftime live. Minnesota Vikings, Pittsburgh Steelers, Thursday night football. No Davis Sanchez, who's away on official Grey Cup duty for TSN. So you're stuck with me tonight in a halftime where I might get a little bit heated because it's taken me, I guess, thankfully, 13 weeks in a game to make a bet this bad. But going into the game with a pregame bet on the Pittsburgh Steelers has me a little fired up. I will talk about my distaste for the Mike Tomlin game plan or lack thereof in just a moment. But with it being halftime, we do have numbers coming up, and I have some interest here potentially on the total, but also on a prop that people can look around at some of the major books in the U.S. as well. Here north of the border in Canada, we have some options available for betting. So nothing. Well, here we see the numbers up right now. Vikings +1, -130, total over 20.5. Minnesota now, that number's dropping a little bit. So initial bets here on the Vikings, I think that gets to a pick 'em. That total, if you're getting 20.5 or 21, I think that's a nice look to the over. And so for the sake of everyone here on the stream, there was 20.5 available. But if you can get over 21, I think that's worth a look. Obviously, if you have multiple sports books, find the 20.5. But we'll go with over 21 for the second half total. And I'll get into a prop in just a second. But I don't know what ultimately Pittsburgh is going to do to stop this. And if you're a Steelers fan, the hatred you must have for how spineless and gutless of a game plan this has been for the Pittsburgh Steelers has to just put you over the edge. I mean, and I get it. It's a tough spot. You play the Ravens, a divisional game to keep the playoff hopes alive. You have to go on the road on the short week. The schedule makers did the Steelers no favors. But look, you have Dalvin Cook, who somehow comes back after 11 days of tearing his labrum, and you barely put a finger on the guy for the entire first half. He goes off for more than 125 yards, his highest ever in a first half. You don't touch him. And you have the choice as Tomlin with this vaunted Steelers defense that, quite frankly, for the entire season has been trending towards the bottom 8 in the league. You have two options. You can put an extra safety in the box to take away Cook, or you can double Jefferson. What's irritating me watching this is he's guessing wrong on every play. And he knows, like, if you do any prep, I'm sitting here and I can see that Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, he kills man coverage. He has all season. His numbers against man are phenomenal. And last week, the Steelers against the Ravens switched to play zone. Like, this is a man scheme with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. We're used to that. But last week, they put together a game plan defensively that would have worked against the Vikings tonight, or at least contained it. But instead, they revert to the old tactics. There's clearly no prep, and it's one of these Tomlin games that we get a couple times a year where he just, it seems like zero effort went into the game plan. And he's like, we're just going to out-physical the opponent. And they haven't even been close. And so you get the 3rd and long on the second drive of the Vikings are going down the field, 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 12, and they elect to put the extra guy in the box and go man on Jefferson, concede inside, and just get burned. Next drive, what happens? Exact same thing, and they're fortunate that he got a bad pass from Cousins who rushed it. Otherwise, that was another walk-in touchdown. And even when they go to double him, they're still giving him so much cushion and space that it's just I can't understand how these coaches year after year, like Tomlin does, just completely punt on game planning. It drives me insane as a bettor because you want to look at it and bet on something that you expect to happen within reason. And you just get this complete, I can't swear on the stream, but you can see I'm a little like frustrated by it because it's like, how are you betting on this? So where does all this go for the second half bet and why I like the total? So Vikings 300 yards in the first half. They're probably not going to get north of 600 yards and double that up, but 8.1 yards per play. The point is they have Pittsburgh either way. And now with Watt out, if the Vikings go into this conservative shell that they always do with Zimmer when he has the lead, they're just going to run the football consistently and have a lot of success doing it. And where this gets interesting now without Watt, if they're going to gamble and bring that extra guy into the box, they're not going to have anyone to cover outside. So it's a spot where I think Minnesota is going to be able to move the football. The prop that I'd like, if you can find Madison to score a touchdown, I mean, to me, it's bizarre that Cook is even out on the field. 11 days ago, he tears his labrum. He's run for 153 yards. I don't think in a blowout game they're going to continue pushing Cook knowing that their playoff hopes are still hanging by a thread and they're still alive and they're going to need him. So I think at some point in the second half, with the lead, knowing how much the Vikings run, they're going to look to Madison at some point. So some of the major books in the U.S., there's a big discrepancy here. They have them around plus 350. But if you look in places far away, perhaps you want to go international, but also there's one or two major apps in the States, they have them around 10-1 to score an anytime touchdown. If you're in Canada, same thing. There's a sports book that adds up to 14. If you sum the numbers, he's got him at 10-1. And then there's another one in a faraway place where you can get him at about 11-1. So there's a pretty good price available for him, but you've got to shop around. But I think that's a nice prop. For the sake of the show, we'll go with the lowest price plus 350 and keep it fair. But if you can spend a little bit of time shopping, you can find about 10-1 on Madison to score a touchdown in the second half. That's a nice in-play prop to look to with how the Vikings are going to run. And then on the other side, we know what the Steelers are going to do. Hopefully. Well, I guess I thought we did. But one thing they have been consistent as is when they're getting killed in games like this, and you see them in a negative game state, that's trailing by 10 points or more, they have one of the highest pass rates in the NFL. So even though the Vikings running it, which I think they'll still be effective doing, is going to be detrimental for the clock and speed up the game, I think the Steelers, on the other hand, sort of negate that a little bit with how much they're going to be passing and that high pass rate that they come out with. With this game being on 23, there is the chance for the 2-point conversion. If the Steelers score, they'd probably go for it on the second touchdown if they happen to do that. There was nothing in the first half that suggested they're going to be able to move the football enough to do that. But I do think that as the Vikings defense, like we saw against the Lions on that final drive, but we see consistently, they just play off and they get super soft when they're playing with a lead. So I think that's going to allow Pittsburgh into the fourth quarter to be able to move the football, I think, to find the end zone once or twice. So we'll go with second half over 21. There was a 20.5 that was available. I don't know if that's still available elsewhere, but that's a number. And then for the prop, if you can find Alexander Madison right there, he was plus 340. You can see where this is. Obviously at FanDuel, there's other sports books that will have him at a much bigger price. Twitter questions. Steelers score more than 7 in the second half. Is the team total 7? If the team total is 7, I would say I think you get a touchdown either way, and that's going to come down to probably a coin flip on a 2-point conversion on whether or not that ultimately gets over, with the scoreline being 23-0. When we're looking at just the team total, so they're at 9.5. So if you're finding a 7, that's a pretty good number regardless, with that shaded to the over. But I think from that perspective, if you're looking at a 7, that's a pretty good price. That, quite frankly, if I had a 7, I would be taking the over on that one too. So that's a pretty good number. I wish we got a little bit more of an exciting game to talk about, but I think between the second half over and that Madison prop, if you're able to find it, that will give some excitement for the second half. We'll get you back to the couch and back to the game. I'm Adam Chernoff for Covers.com. This was Halftime Live. We'll be back with you Sunday at halftime of the Grey Cup for all Canadians watching the big game on Sunday. Derek Taylor, voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, will be joining me to talk all things Grey Cup in the second half after the late games on Sunday. Jason Logan will follow with Bet Now Bet later, and then I'll be back with Davis Sanchez post Grey Cup as he's back from Hamilton for Monday Night Football and the big one, Arizona, Los Angeles. Talk to you guys on Sunday.